Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
On this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, our favorite stories from Pfizer Animal Health. We'll tackle topics like reproductive health and bovine respiratory disease. Plus, a look at a new E. coli vaccine.
And now, a special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. We're focusing on stories from Pfizer Animal Health and how Pfizer products can protect the health and productivity of your livestock. Let's take a look. Cattle producers make every effort to avoid losses in their operation. Diseases within a cattle population represent lost productivity and increased labor, and the financial impact can be devastating. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter introduces us to a Texas cow-calf producer who believes a sound reproductive vaccination program is key to his ranch's success.
Roy Russell has one main objective for his cow-calf operation near Aspermont, Texas.
Our ultimate goal is a good uniform set of calves. That's what it all boils down to. If everything's working right, I'm going to turn out a nice set of calves that all match up.
Although Roy hasn't been a rancher his whole life, he's very familiar with the cattle business, having worked as a county extension agent for several years.
But extension, I was in there for 10 years and was a county extension agent for agriculture specifically. So that entails all areas of agriculture depending on the county you were at. The cattle have always been something of interest that I really had got a lot of enjoyment out of the cattle industry. And as a county agent, conducted a tremendous amount of educational programs specifically for beef cattle.
It doesn't take long after you get to talking to Roy to know that he's very passionate about his operation, his herd.
All of the hard work of a cow-calf operator like Roy can be quickly undone without ongoing reproductive disease protection. Producers should use a vaccine that helps defend against the main causes of reproductive failure like IBR, BVD, and leptoharjobovis.
Reproductive health management involves a lot of things, primarily nutrition, but also there's some interventions that we can do, such as reproductive vaccines that can improve reproductive performance. Generally, we consider a good vaccination program just like we would consider an insurance program. It's something that we need to do to prevent the potential losses that can occur.
Reproductive diseases in general can be economically devastating to a herd if they have a severe outbreak, and it could be something that could take years to improve the status of the herd or years to overcome the economic losses sustained from a reproductive disease. And the easiest way to avoid all of that is with an adequate vaccination protocol.
Although ranchers may not perceive leptoharjobovis as a problem on their operations, research has shown that 42% of tested herds were infected.
Harjobovis is the #1 cause of leptospirosis in the United States. A lot of people don't realize that. They think maybe other serovars are more important, but Harjobovis is the #1 lepto in the United States. Leptoharjobovis can cause considerable damage. It can cause reproductive loss from infertility. It can cause stillbirths, weak calves, and it can be an economic loss in beef herds in many parts of the United States.
Lepto is a little bit different than some of the other diseases. The Harjobovis a lot of times can just be an insidious infection in the herd. The producer may not know that he has a problem, and it can kind of go through the herd and cause reproductive losses and infertility problems within the herd. And the other thing with Harjobovis is a lot of times it's difficult to diagnose. If you protect yourself up front and avoid Harjobovis infection within the herd, then you're a lot better off.
We'll return to Texas for more tips on preventing reproductive failure when we come back. Stay with us.
These days, more cattlemen choose Draxxin to fight BRD than any other brand. Here's why.
It works. We have fewer repulls, and the ones that we do repull respond, and we have fewer chronics in the end.
To retreat anything it's a lot more expensive than using Draxxin as a first time.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts retreats by 50%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see why Draxxin should be your first choice to fight BRD.
Basically what it's allowed us to do with our operation is run more cattle through in a given period of time. It's just really been a good product to use.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Welcome back. Let's return to reporter Brian Baxter, who's learning more about ways to avoid potential reproductive losses.
Choosing the best vaccination protocol to help protect reproductive health requires careful consideration. Producers should work with their local veterinarian to establish a prevention program that's designed to meet their herd's individual needs and uses demonstrated effective products that protect through the management period.
One of the most important decisions that a producer can make is to involve their veterinarian in the construction of their health program. And the most important part of that health program may be the reproductive health. One size does not fit all in terms of vaccination programs. It really needs to be tailored for that operation, for the resources, both people resources and the forage resources and all the management resources that are involved.
The first thing I like to do is just sit down with the producer and go over the vaccines that we're going to use, go over the diseases that we're going to be protecting against, and make sure they're familiar with what we're trying to do and make sure they understand the goals of the program. And then we formulate the program specifically and individually to that producer.
Roy trusts Bovishield Gold FP5L5HB from Pfizer Animal Health to help protect his cattle against the complete range of diseases that can cause reproductive losses, including leptoharjobovis.
Bovishield Gold helps protect against the viral pathogens, BVD type 1, BVD type 2, and IBR, as well as leptoharjobovis.
We've been using the product and know it works. This will be our second year to use it. Dr. Gober definitely, made those recommendations to me, besides other people that I listen to in the cow-calf industry also using that, so it made it an easy choice. And to this point, I've had zero problems.
I think when you look at the research and the data supporting the vaccine, look at the field trials that are done, and the information available on the efficacy of the vaccine, you can recommend it with confidence and know that your herd's protected.
Not all vaccines are created equal or offer reproductive duration of immunity. Bovishield Gold FP5L5HB helps protect against 5 major viral pathogens and offers at least 365 days of protection from leptoharjobovis.
Bovishield Gold HB offers 365 days protection against BVD type 1 and 2, IBR abortions, leptoharjobovis infection, urinary shedding, and kidney colonization.
When we give that shot, I don't worry about my cow herd besides worming them the rest of the year. I mean, granted, we're going to look at them and look at body condition scores and see how we're doing according to rainfall and how our grasses are doing and how everything is working there. But from a vaccination standpoint, I don't worry about it anymore. I mean, it's good insurance, and I know they'll stand behind their product. But luckily, I hadn't had to ask them to stand behind any of their products because everything I've used has worked, and we've had zero problems. And feel very comfortable about that and secure in it. Takes a lot of stress off of you.
In addition to standing behind the performance and protection of their products, Pfizer Animal Health also backs their reproductive vaccines with risk-free guarantees.
Pfizer Animal Health will guarantee 100% of calves to be born BVD PI free, provided cows or heifers were vaccinated at least 30 days prior to breeding according to label directions. With Bovishield Gold, FP Bovishield Gold HB, PregGuard Gold FP, or Cattle Master Gold FP. In addition to the BVD PI free guarantee, Pfizer will guarantee herds to be free of IBR abortions, provided they are vaccinated according to label at least 30 days pre-breeding with one of the Pfizer line of fetal protection vaccines.
The bottom line is there's value in using a product that helps protect cattle against a variety of pathogens, and no matter what the market looks like, that can make a big difference.
Regardless of the size of your operation, reproductive disease can cause serious economic losses that can impact your bottom line. And the implementation of a sound reproductive vaccination program is critical to having optimal reproductive performance in your herd.
We've had zero problems, and I mean that's what it boils down to. The more problems we have, the more time I'm having to spend getting sick cows up or gathering, and I mean that adds up. And a small producer, every little bit counts. It doesn't take long to justify the vaccines and what you need to use to make sure you don't have those problems.
That's a sentiment most cow-calf producers would agree with. Reporting from Aspermont, Texas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about Bovishield Gold HB or any of Pfizer's other products, just log on to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back.
For over 35 years, Kenner Simmental Ranch of North Dakota has successfully produced quality bulls by stressing genetics and respecting the customer's needs.
By coming to our bull sale, you'll find that our bulls can compete nationwide, and we stand behind them, and disposition, performance, calving ease, it's all there.
Kenner offers a variety of bulls, purebred and crossbred. Every bull and heifer sold is guaranteed to your satisfaction and backed by years of rigorous testing.
Our customers, number one, and we want to do everything we can to be there for them.
This year's Kenner Bull Sale is in Bismarck on Saturday, February 11th. Videos, a sale catalog, and other information are available on the ranch website. Contact us by phone at 701-466-2800 or online at KennerSimmental.com. The Kenner Simmental Annual Bull Sale in Bismarck. We'll see you there.
Welcome back. When just one person becomes ill from eating beef tainted with E. coli 0157 bacteria, all beef producers and everyone across the beef chain feels the repercussions in the demand for their product and ultimately the price it brings. Now there's a product that may help to further reduce the risk for exposure to E. coli 0157 bacteria and give the beef industry another tool to use in our ongoing effort to keep beef safe. Reporter Matt Fleck has more from Central Kansas.
Barton County Feeders near Great Bend, Kansas prides itself on having a staff with decades of industry knowledge.
I recently calculated the combined years of experience at our yard, and we have amazingly, even to my surprise, 468 years of combined experience at this facility. So you can see we've been here a while, we've seen it all and experienced it all, and we can pretty well adapt to whatever happens today.
Barton County Feeders is a participating feed yard in the Beef Marketing Group, or BMG, a producer-owned cooperative created from a group of small, independent operators. BMG is able to operate efficiently while remaining competitive and nimble in a rapidly evolving industry.
We can move as we identify directions to move that make sense to us and make sense to the systems that we're involved with. I think the other thing is that we are very committed to integrity. And so we're very careful about situations that we're going to get ourselves in, opportunities that we're going to pursue, but once we decide that that's the direction we're going to go, we are absolutely committed.
Barton County Feeders and BMG are working to bring all sectors of the industry together, from ranchers and packers to retailers, restaurants, and food service suppliers, to create a complete beef supply chain management system. The group is also committed to further reducing the presence of E. coli 0157 in the beef production supply chain. The operation has strict cleaning standards and safeguards against cross-contamination. It is also testing a vaccine for E. coli 0157 from Pfizer Animal Health.
Our motivation for trying it was to reduce the E. coli in arrival at the packing plant, but also to reduce the shedding here at our facility. And it's E. coli is a huge concern with our consumers, and it's very, very costly to the industry, because if a lot of beef is condemned because of E. coli, that's a huge cost, not only to the packer, but he isn't going to share all of it. It gets passed along to us, so to all of us, the consumer and the feed yard.
Over the last 10 years, the E. coli 157 has actually cost the beef industry in excess of $3 billion in lost revenues, in perception damage, and lower amounts of demand for our product. Obviously, if you're going to talk about $3 billion, part of that's going to be about $1 billion of that going to the feed yard industry, $1 billion of it going to the packing industry, and the remaining portion of it going to food service, retail industry. So it's a lot of money.
The Escherichia coli bacterial extract vaccine with SRP technology is the first of its kind for cattle to be used as a pre-harvest intervention in the U.S. on a large scale. It uses the animal's immune system to reduce prevalence and shedding of E. coli 0157 at the source, in the cattle.
So the siderophore receptor and porin protein vaccine, SRP, vaccinates against both the passive, the porins, and the active transport, the siderophore receptors, so that the bacteria can't bring iron into it, and it basically suffocates. Iron is to a bacteria like E. coli as oxygen is to us, and so we prevent those bacteria from having that iron capacity, and they can no longer function.
What we're trying to do at Pfizer Animal Health, we're trying to control E. coli from the inside of the animal, where it harbors, where it's actually housed. And if we can actually eliminate that, and it looks like we are able to at least reduce the presence of E. coli 15787 in these cattle, we're going to have less animal-to-animal contaminations for E. coli 15787.
So if the cattle have the pathogen reduced in their gut and in their bodies, theory would tell you that then it's going to be reduced in the operation as well. And wouldn't that be a nice thing if we could show that we actually were able to reduce something as concerning as E. coli on an operation from before we use the interventions to after we use the interventions. So we're very concerned about that. We believe it's the right thing to do, and we're learning more and more about it every day.
We'll have more from Central Kansas when we return.
Draxxin, clearly cattlemen's #1 choice to fight BRD. Here's why.
Nothing is more depressing in a stalker business as to doctor and doctor. And you still have your chronics, you still have your death loss. And with Draxxin, we just found out that, especially with microplasts, you just had to be there to see the results.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts chronics and mortalities by 70%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see, nothing gives you more for your money when you're fighting BRD.
Just a great antibiotic.
Very, very effective. Don't let the price tag scare you.
It's a no-brainer. You just use it.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Welcome back. Let's return to reporter Brian Baxter, who's learning more about how one Kansas operation is working to prevent E. coli in cattle.
The Escherichia coli bacterial extract vaccine may reduce the likelihood that cattle would carry E. coli 0157, and thus help reduce the chances that the bacteria could contaminate hide or carcasses, helping the entire beef processing system, from producers and veterinarians to the packers, retailers, and ultimately the consumer.
It's no different than carcass washing or steam pasteurization or any of those other things they do at the packing level. It's things that we can get excited about at our level to where, okay, now we can add our part. You can take all the pre-harvest interventions that you want that are physical, but without something that's metabolic, that you can really put into the animal and affect the change in the manner that this product potentially has the ability to do. That's the big difference between it. We could keep, we wash cattle every day. I mean, you can go into those kind of things, and you're still not going to eliminate it. But you do something that's an intervention like this, and all of a sudden you reduce your opportunity. And those are the things that really kind of are going to lend a lot of value to the industry.
The Escherichia coli bacterial extract vaccine also has the potential to provide feed yard operations a tool to play a new role in reducing E. coli 0157 in cattle.
There are a lot of intervention measures at the packing plant, but the feed yard is a place where if we can lower that pathogen load going into the packing plant, then all of those other intervention measures are going to work just that much better because they don't have the volume to deal with. The vaccine that we're working with Pfizer on right now to utilize in the feed yards, it's a new intervention measure, but one that we've got a lot of confidence in. It's taking some extra dollars to be able to produce a product like that, but we have always heard the consuming public and the processors tell us that food safety is not something that is a price concern. We've ran several tests in our feed yards with the vaccine in trying to establish its efficacy in being able to reduce the pathogen loads, and I'm just as convinced as I sit here that we're able to reduce our pathogen load, and that makes it much easier to deal with when it gets to the packing plant.
A responsible food safety program requires investment, planning, and commitment from the entire beef industry.
Is it easy to do? No. If it was easy to do, somebody would have done it 10 years ago. But it's one of those things that you have to have some people that are concerned. You have to have people that are wanting to try to make a difference. You also have to work with people that can manage cattle, not only at the feed yard, but maybe even upstream eventually at the rancher level.
Reporting from Great Bend, Kansas, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
If you'd like more information on Pfizer Animal Health's products, including its Escherichia coli bacterial extract vaccine, visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back.
These days, more cattlemen choose Draxxin to fight BRD than any other brand. Here's why.
It works. We have fewer repulls, and the ones that we do repull respond, and we have fewer chronics in the end.
To retreat anything it's a lot more expensive than using Draxxin as a first time.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts retreats by 50%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see why Draxxin should be your first choice to fight BRD.
Basically what it's allowed us to do with our operation is run more cattle through in a given period of time. It's just really been a good product to use.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Welcome back. Texas is home to one of the country's largest and most innovative cattle feeders. And with more than 3 decades of experience, Cactus Feeders is not letting the grass grow under its feet. The company continues to fine-tune every aspect of its operation, including how it tackles bovine respiratory disease, or BRD, as it uses a product that adds a powerful tool to its toolbox. Reporter Brian Baxter has more.
Cactus Feeders is the world's largest privately held cattle feeding company. For Cactus, there isn't just one key to its success. The feed yard relies on geographic diversity, investment in its employees, research, and a sound animal health program.
Cactus Feeders is about 35 years old. The feed yard where we are today is the original Cactus feed yard of 10 that we have today. We're now have 7 feed yards in Texas and 3 in southwest Kansas.
I would say I'm not sure that what we do is unique as much as how we go about it. And we really have about 3 legs on that stool. And the first one is just basic animal husbandry and animal welfare. You have to start there. and the respect that we expect all of our employees to have towards the cattle is a big place to start. The second thing I think that we look at is ways to improve operational efficiency. How can we get the job done every day in a timely manner with as few hours and as few people as we can, continue to take care of the cattle. And then the third piece of that is our commitment to continue to evaluate and implement new technologies.
Another thing that we have is, multiple locations scattered from the South Plains of the Panhandle to southwest Kansas. 10 different feed yards, 10 different locations. From a customer standpoint, we're able to scatter risk from one end of the Panhandle to the other. Weather risk being primarily one of the deals, corn risk, commodity price risk, different feed rations at different feed yards depending on what price is into the ration. With Cactus feeders, we're able to facilitate many of our customers in being able to do that by spreading their cattle out across one operation or multiple feed yards that are owned by one entity.
Cactus Feeders employees also have a stake in the continued success of the operation. The company recently sold the remaining shares of its stock to its employees.
That's a milestone for us, obviously, and we think it makes us one of very few companies in all of agriculture that are 100% owned by their employees.
It changes your mindset. When you drive through the gate, whether coming in or leaving, you think, have I done what I should be doing today for myself, much less my co-owners or the customers or anyone else involved at this feed yard. Ownership, when you begin to think like an owner, it really changes how you approach your job.
Another unique part of Cactus Feeders is its large-scale research facility, which ensures customers are getting up-to-date, concrete data about new technologies and medicines.
We do contract research for pharmaceutical companies on new pharmaceuticals and even product extensions of current pharmaceuticals. And because of that, we operate a large-scale research facility within a cattle feeding operation. So it's very much a real-world research operations where we can do demonstration trials or even registration trials where the pharmaceutical company and the customers will realize that they're getting real-world data. So I think that makes this particular feed yard very unique.
We'll return to Texas for more tips on preventing bovine respiratory disease when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Welcome back. Let's return to reporter Brian Baxter, who's learning more about BRD from an operation with more than 3 decades of experience.
One of the continuing challenges to keeping cattle comfortable and healthy is their vulnerability to bovine respiratory disease, or BRD, especially once they first arrive at the feed yard.
Cattle that are at highest risk are always going to be the calves that are just recently weaned prior to coming to the feed yards. Many times those are going to go through some sort of commingling. They come from many smaller herds, commingled at the order buyer facilities prior to being shipped to the feed yards. Those would be the highest risk cattle that we see. Then we also have maybe those bigger cattle that for in certain times of the year, particularly early winter, so about middle of September through the end of February, we find a proportion of those cattle that are at a much higher risk, even though these would be traditionally what we'd consider low risk, those being over 700 pounds on arrival.
The pen riders at Cactus are trained to watch newly arrived cattle for signs of BRD.
There's a lot of things I look for when I ride into a pen of high-risk cattle. I want to see how one's standing, how he moves out when I ask him to move out, if he's eating, drinking. But the main thing that I look for is in their eyes. A lot of our respiratory pneumonia cattle will have a glassy look in their eye, and that's pretty much what catches my eye, is their eye. And then I'll make that decision as far as, do I need to get him pulled, get him treated, and get him back home.
Using their in-house research, Cactus believes that Draxxin from Pfizer Animal Health has the best cost benefits for their operation when it comes to controlling BRD.
And what we have found is with Draxxin, we give the injection and we feel confident that for 10 days we have medication on board, and we can then focus on the cattle in the pens, adapting them to their new environment.
Draxxin just fits well in our operations. The post-metaphylactic interval was a little bit of a hard sell, as I'm sure it is in a lot of operations, because it goes against the culture of what our cowboys have been used to for so long. But they have seen the benefits now, and so in our operations it's a good fit. It's a good fit for the labor force. It's a good fit for the health parameters that we have that we require on the feed yards.
It was a bit of a challenge, you know, it was something new to get used to and adjust to. It's turned out to be a really, really good deal for us. It's cut down the workload. The cattle, the pulls have completely dropped. Usually in high-risk cattle like that, if you get 15 or 20 of them in the first 25 days, you thought you were doing your job. But now, since this is brought in, that's dropped big time. You might have 3 or 4 pulls.
The feed yard's general manager says Draxxin makes good sense for the operation's priorities and bottom line.
The sooner that we can get these calves on feed and doing what they're here to do, produce beef, the sooner we can do that, the better. You know, if we've got, you know, a lot of pulls and cattle in the hospitals, it makes it hard for the feed guys to get the feed put out correctly. We want to do it as quickly and efficiently as we can.
Reducing or eliminating the cattle's time in a feed yard hospital pen for BRD treatment also plays an important role in getting them adapted to their new surroundings.
These cattle are social animals, and anytime you disrupt that social environment, if you take an animal out and he has to circulate through a hospital system for a few days before he centers back around to the home pen, that disrupts the social structure within the pen.
Research and a sound animal health program gives the operation a new way to think about its approach to its future and to future demands.
So I think we'll always be here, and I think we'll always be in the protein business, and I'm confident that beef will always be on the consumer's plate. As the world grows and we have to feed more and more people, the population is going to demand high quality protein. As the lower classes in the underdeveloped countries try to move up into a middle class, they're going to want animal protein. They're going to want animal agriculture throughout the world to produce that protein for them. And there's no place in the world that can do that as efficiently as the United States.
Reporting from Cactus, Texas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
For more information about cactus feeders, visit cactusfeeders.com. If you'd like more information on Pfizer's products and combating BRD, just visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When it comes to versatility on your operation, nothing beats a John Deere D-Series skid steer. They're not only great for cleaning and feed chores, but with John Deere Worksite Pro attachments, you can tackle just about any job thrown your way. You asked for versatility, and John Deere delivered. These rock-solid machines are built to last. See your dealer today.
Welcome back. Today's consumer is bombarded by information, sometimes misleading information, about beef and the cattle industry. But a group of current and former agricultural students at Kansas State University is using the new media to bridge the growing information gap between producers and consumers. Cattleman to Cattleman's Brad Bulla has more.
In a basement office at Kansas State University, a group of young people are working on their blog called Food for Thought. It began after a discussion about the disconnect between Americans who produce food and those who consume it.
I know that my neighbor down the road
does a great job of producing food. Is a great farmer. I know that the guy up the road does a wonderful job of caring for his cattle and producing beef for the meat case. The person in the grocery store doesn't necessarily know that. They want to know that, and that's what we're running into in recent years. People want to know.
I think the disconnect exists because fewer and fewer people are producing the food that a large population consumes. We're really lucky in America. We have an abundant food supply. Food is cheap compared to other countries, and that's very fortunate. I think the disconnect exists because we're getting a lot more urban consumers. We're getting further removed from the farm. I think that our blog does a really good job of addressing that, and I've found that we can address it very simply.
Food for Thought features first-hand stories and videos from producers who explain their work. But it also aims to shoot down the many misconceptions consumers have about their food and where it comes from.
I don't necessarily want to just teach people. I want to connect with them. I want them to see that there is a face to American agriculture, that we are people just like them that care greatly about animals, that choose to be in the professions that we choose to be in, because we want to take good care of our land and our animals and provide food for people. I think that personal connection is what I hope to make more than anything else.
Food for Thought invites consumers to talk directly to industry experts about the issues that affect them. It also builds a relationship with consumers through regional outreach programs.
And so we do that by, bringing consumers to the farms, whether that be, through Facebook and Twitter and our blog, but then also, giving them tours of farms. We've had producers that want to jump on board that'll be a host to their farm and open up their homes and their operations and give tours and talk to those consumers. And then we also have the opportunity to bring producers to the consumers. So by doing this, we can go into grocery stores and supermarkets, and we can sit at the meat counter, and we can, be there to answer questions if they have about different cuts of meat, or how to safely prepare meat or produce, which is a great aspect.
Since its launch in the spring of 2010, Food for Thought has had over 12,000 visitors. The young volunteers who run the blog say they're amazed at the connections they've made with everyday consumers.
I have a vegan mother from New York. She's a mother of 4, and we correspond email now because she started reading our blog. I don't know if I'm going to change her mind, but I'm talking to her, and that makes a difference, I think. She provides food and makes food choices for 4 consumers and her husband, so 5 consumers. And it's very exciting to converse with her. She has questions when E. coli breaks out in the UK. She has a question about that. I can get her information, or I can get her with people who can get her the correct information, rather than her Googling it and maybe taking something that's not true.
My generation is a huge group of that social media users, but the more than half, 51% of Americans over the age of 18 have a Facebook account. To me, that makes it clear that it is not just a younger generation thing, it is reaching a larger group than that. So I think that it is in some ways exclusively how the younger generation gets their news. I don't have very many friends that get a hard copy newspaper anymore. They almost always go online for it. But I think their older generations are adopting and incorporating this sort of social media into their lives as well.
For us to see that we're getting people from New York City to read our blog is really wonderful. That makes one person reading our blog from New York City, that this is reaching out there, but we probably know that they don't have any agriculture experience whatsoever, right? And so that's our goal. We've reached our goal, and that makes it worth it to us.
I'd really like to see the blog grow in the amount of authors that we have. We have a lot of Kansas State young alumni and students. I'd like to see, there's no reason that I can't have a student from Michigan call me up tomorrow and say, I'd love to post on your blog. As long as they're meeting our guidelines and staying with our mission and our goal, it would be very exciting to have different viewpoints added to it. So I think that will be easier as we all build those connections with different advocates across the country in different commodity groups. And I would like to see us really branch out and get agriculture represented through our authors.
Reporting from Manhattan, Kansas, I'm Brad Bulla for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The Food for Thought website receives some funding from private and academic grants, but is staffed by volunteers. To find out more, visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. As our recent efforts on the Clean Water Act demonstrate, our industry needs a cohesive voice on the issues that affect our way of life. One veteran cattleman says greater involvement in state and national organizations help give us a more unified approach. Cattleman to Cattleman's Brad Bulla has more from North Dakota.
It's always been an important part of our life, living where we do with our Canadian neighbors to the north. We have a lot of friends and relatives.
Gabe Thompson's family has lived in Antler, North Dakota, right next to the U.S. border with Canada, for over a century.
We're primarily a commercial cow-calf operation. We run Angus, Slayer, and Maine and Jew cross cattle in a situation where we'll background our calves most years, almost every year, and on occasion we have been involved in retaining ownership and finishing cattle as well. Third generation farmer rancher. Grandparents came over from Norway back at the turn of the century, and we've built a grain and cattle operation, and we're carrying on in that tradition.
And in northern North Dakota, that tradition is going through some dramatic changes.
This is primarily farming country. If you are involved in the cattle industry up in this neck of the woods, it's because you really, really want to be. And that's one of the unique challenges we face as well in being able to find ground that is available to run cattle on as opposed to farming anymore. And we're on the eastern edge of the oil industry really booming, and there are a lot of instances here in North Dakota. We see it where the oil comes into play, and the livelihood that has been dependent upon from making cattle is no longer necessary, and unfortunately we're seeing that in cattle numbers dropping and producers exiting out of our industry.
But Gabe says being a cattleman has always meant rising to meet challenges.
A lot of them have remained the same year after year, generation after generation. One of the typical ones that we see more of now are the regulatory aspects that are coming down, and whether that is from government entities or private animal rights type of entities, the regulatory nature of the constraints that we're going to see coming at us is probably one of the largest issues that we'll be facing.
Gabe's been director of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association for the past 7 years.
It's been an incredibly rewarding experience for me. We have an exceptional group of people, cattlemen that step up and volunteer their time and energy into directing our industry here in the state, and it will go down as probably one of the most satisfying and interesting things that we've done here in our life.
The experience has also strengthened his belief that cattlemen need to join state and national organizations, including NCBA.
Our voice is slowly but surely being diminished. With each generation, we become farther and farther removed from society, and we need to be able to tell our story. And we need to be able to tell our story in a proactive way that many people can pick up on and understand. NCBA takes our local and state voices and expands them
to a broad basis nationally and brings everything together to give us the ability to go to that higher level of telling our story outside of who we know around locally. The NCBA has been a long-standing organization whose commitment to the livestock industry is really hard to argue.
Gabe says social media has opened up the industry to a whole new world of consumers, allowing cattlemen to tell their story directly to the public, making a significant impact on how the market looks at beef. He's also amazed at how other new technologies are advancing the industry.
My father grew up harnessing horses in the lantern light as a child, and a couple summers ago we had a laser etching machine in our calving barn, scratching the zona of embryos prior to being transferred into a cow. And the changes that his generation have witnessed in agriculture is almost mind-boggling.
Gabe is very attached to his community. Hundreds of friends from both sides of the U.S.-Canada border gather annually in his town for Antler Outlaws events that Gabe helps to organize, including a local ranch rodeo, trail ride, and steak cookout.
Throughout my life, the people that I've met in the cattle industry have been some of the most true, genuine people that I've ever met. It seems just to be the nature of your involvement in this industry. And I guess we farm as well as ranch, but our true calling and enjoyment does come from the cattle side.
Reporting from Antler, North Dakota, I'm Brad Bullitt for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Gabe Thompson is a member of NCBA. Please join him and the thousands just like him by calling 1-866-USA-BEEF or visiting us online at beefusa.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Joey.
And I'm Rory, and welcome to our farm outside Nashville, Tennessee. When we go to work, whether it's on tour or here at home, we wear the West.
That's right. Whether it's that perfect snap shirt or that perfect pair of boots, when you wear Roper, you wear the West.
Learn more about us, Joey and Rory, and about Roper Western Wear at eroper.com.
Telling the truth and being real and feeding my family a home-cooked meal, that's important to me. That's important to me. And planting the garden and watching it grow.
Let's face it, you don't think a lot about your trailer hitch. You use it and forget it. We understand. But at B&W, we think about it. Short nights, long hauls, never-ending chores. The unthinkable. We think about it all, so you don't have to. B&W. Trusted.
So what do you care if your cattle are source and age verified? Better yet, do you think the housewife cares? Well, 70% of consumers surveyed want to know where their food comes from. So where do you start? With this little green ear tag. IMI Global is the seal of approval that stands behind the beef you produced. IMI is engaged in source and age verification from the cow man to the kitchen table. So if you're ready to start, just ask us. IMIGlobal.com. We were working cows at Grouse Creek. Tinker was the cook. It wasn't that he was a great cook, but he'd always done it. He made a big pot of chili and beans the first night. It was enough to feed the 7 of us, plus any visiting cavalry platoon. After supper, we all loaded in the pickup and drove 15 miles down to Pop's Natural Hot Springs. Well, we bathed and soaked and loaded up and drove back to our outfit. But on arrival, Tinker realized that we'd left his little dog Lady back at Pop's. He was very upset, so he backtracked. Well, the rest of us slept peacefully that night. The chili and beans were fresh. Next morning, we stumbled into breakfast. The familiar aroma of chili and beans filled the kitchen. Unusual breakfast fare, but nobody said anything. Tinker looked like a dying duck in a thunderstorm. He'd been out all night looking for Lady. He reheated the chili and beans for lunch, And by supper, chili and beans, Tinker had become irritable. He'd walk to the window every few minutes and look down the road. Well, that night, we slept with the doors and windows open in the bunkhouse. At breakfast, an unpleasant deja vu lay heavy over the table. The chili and beans was the consistency of South Dakota gumbo and smelled like burning brakes. Tinker spoke to no one all day. For supper, we had chili and bean sludge. It was the closest I've come to eating lava. That night, we slept outside. Breakfast the third day was fried adobe that tasted vaguely of chili and beans. We ate in silence, accompanied by the growling sounds of indigestion and explosive borborygmia. Then we heard a scratching at the door. Tinker jumped up and ran out there and took a look. There was Lady, sore-footed, dusty, and glad to be home. Tinker picked her up like a baby and hugged her. She licked his face. Still holding her, he took a big T-bone steak out of the fridge and slapped it in the frying pan. After a couple of turns, he put it on the floor in front of her, and she ate all she could and lay down, exhausted. Needless to say, we were happy for both of them, but after he left, we dove the bone. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter, for that educational insight. That's it for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.